1980 science fiction has all of those elements that make greatness in cinema and storytelling.
It changed everything, and I loved it.
We felt so creative. The whole audience for science fiction came alive.
I was the ultimate tough guy.
What a great concept.
Badass, sci-fi.
Yeah!
I'll be back.
Nostalgia connects us with our imagination.
That's one of the joys of cinema.
It's the positiveness that made for repeat viewing.
Surpasses our brains and goes straight to our heart.
Can't we go back to what I grew up with, which is the beauty of sci-fi and imagination?
The Batman has finally come out in theatres and is already getting rave reviews from the fans and critics. Produced on a large budget of nearly $200 million and shot mostly in the UK, making use of Liverpool, London and even Scotland and Chicago being used as exterior backdrops for Gotham City. Directed by Matt Reeves, best known for his work on the Planet of the Apes films, this originally started out as a project for Ben Affleck, who was going to direct it, but things didn't work out with Ben, who became reluctant to continue with the character. So Warner Bros. Shifted focus to have a new take on The Dark Knight, with Robert Pattinson in the lead role. The film opens with Batman already operating in Gotham, cleaning up the city of crime for 2 years. The city is dominated by corruption and murder, and a new threat is in town. Batman has been called to a murder scene by Lieutenant Gordon, where a letter has been left for the Dark Knight which contains a riddle. Batman along with Alfred try to solve it. As they do, they start to unravel the puzzle. More murders occur, with letters being left for Batman, and he is running out of time to find the culprit. Along the way, Batman encounters Catwoman, who he manages to persuade to help him, but she has her own methods of dealing with the criminals, which go against his, but she is the only one who can help him. I was very excited to see the Batman. The trailers were impressive and just the visual style got me intrigued to see how director Matt Reeves would take this new direction for The Dark Knight. And of course I'm a big fan of Batman, so I was going to see it anyway. I thought the idea of casting Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne aka Batman was a smart move. He certainly has the jawline to make the Batcowl work a treat, but as an actor he has impressed me with his recent work, especially in The Lighthouse and Tenet. The nearly 3-hour runtime was slightly concerning, but the story did manage to warrant its length. But you could have trimmed some sections down to make it a bit tighter in areas, but that is a minor nitpick. Having 30 minutes of adverts and trailers at the beginning doesn't help when being fair on its length when viewing it at the cinema. If you watch it at home when it eventually comes to Blu-ray, it shouldn't feel too long. My initial thoughts after viewing it was that it was probably the most effective Batman film to capture him from the comics. What I mean by that, it's like they have taken a great graphic novel and translated it onto the big screen. The Riddler narrative has elements of the Zodiac, which works wonderfully to update the character, but also having him in the background to keep the mystery. And the puzzle solving is not played out for dummies. The script doesn't treat the audience like idiots. You do have to keep focused on Batman's investigation, or you will feel a bit lost. You do get a sense if David Fincher made a Batman movie, it would look and play out very similar to this. Director Christopher Nolan had shown a side of Batman doing some detective work, but this takes it to the next level. It also doesn't waste time with another origin story. Batman is already operating in Gotham City and is on good terms with Lieutenant Gordon, but not many of the other officers are in favour of this vigilante getting involved. This direction was a nice approach. It does somewhat mirror Tim Burton's Batman film that kicks off with the Dark Knight already fighting crime. The visual style does borrow a lot from Batman Begins, with a similar colour palette for the nighttime sequences. The run-down side of Gotham mirrors the Narrows in Batman Begins, but Matt Reeves decides to drench the film in constant rain. The interiors are very damp and run down. Some designs and choices made make it look very Victorian. It's a city that has two contrasting styles. The big wide-angle shots of Gotham City again make use of Chicago, just like the Dark Knight trilogy. I love that they made use of large parts of Liverpool as a backdrop to give the city a lot of history and helps create this retrofitted world. At first I thought Bruce was operating from his family mansion, but instead he is operating from Wayne Tower, which does look familiar with its exterior, but inside it's totally bonkers looking, with this dark Gothic cathedral hall, which seems to be his dining room or something, and the Batcave looks a bit unfinished, but of course it's full of bats. The casting is pretty much spot on. Superb performances from the main cast, with Jeffrey Wright as Gordon, Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, Paul Dano as the Riddler, and Andy Serkis as Alfred. What really surprised me was Colin Farrell as the Penguin. If you didn't know going into The Batman that he was in the film, you would be gobsmacked to find out he was the famous villain. Mind-blowing performance, and the makeup is incredible. To be honest, I'm surprised they didn't just cast a heavy-set actor to play the part. Andy Serkis does a fine job at playing Alfred, but doesn't get much screen time, which disappointed me. Robert Pattinson is of course the standout performance, and the one actor who has the weight of the movie on his shoulders. We have Bruce Wayne at a young age, and is not the playboy billionaire we are most familiar with. This version is very much a recluse. He is very depressed and not getting much sleep as he spends his nights fighting crime. He is not a rookie, he has all the gear to take on the thugs, but he is not at the height of being this legendary figure of the night. His Batmobile is in its early stages and doesn't have all the gadgets you come to expect. This is the first time we see Bruce with his panda eyes when he removes the cowl, which works really well. With the constant rain throughout the city, the makeup just drips down his face and perfectly fits the mood he is in. Batman is often a man of few words, especially with Michael Keaton's approach, and even Christian Bale in some cases. The script makes Batman a lot more talkative. He makes his points in a small amount of words in conversation, but he doesn't just stand there posing throughout saying very little. Of course he does do that to stare people down, especially the police, but he does get involved with discussing the riddles and teaming up with Catwoman to solve these murders. He is not quick to disappear as well, thankfully. With it being giving a 15 certificate in the UK, which does alienate a lot of the younger Batman fans, something I experienced as a kid, as I had to wait for the VHS release of Batman and Batman Returns, as I was too young at the time to see them at the cinema. So it's quite daring for Warner Brothers to risk having such a popular character be aimed at an older audience. But the Joker proved such a huge success, I think it gave way for Warner's to trust director Matt Reeves to continue with its darker and more mature approach. To be honest, I think kids would find the story a bit heavy-handed. They will certainly enjoy the action, but may find the story a bit boring or say confusing. I had listened to samples of Michael Giacchino's score to The Batman before seeing the film, and the main theme didn't really do much for me. Again, like the score to Batman v Superman, Michael goes with the heavy repetitive percussion for the character. It lacked the driving memorable march of Danny Elfman's work to Tim Burton's films. But what I really loved about Michael's score is the atmosphere and creepiness he creates for Gotham City. It's definitely the most unique of all the scores produced for the Batman films. There are lighter moments, especially for Batman's interaction with Catwoman, which is honestly my favourite piece of music for the film. So yeah, the main theme didn't do much for me personally, but the rest of the music works wonderfully to match the tone and visual style of the film. The action sequences are very impressive. We get to see Batman take on the bad guys in clear wide-angle shots, no choppy editing. The car chase is very intense as well, but very claustrophobic as it's shot with a lot of close-ups at night and in the rain. Most of the sequences are with the camera locked onto the car to give you a sense of speed as Batman chases after the Penguin, but it does make it difficult to understand the geography of the chase. The final act falls into the disaster movie genre mould, so it was a refreshing take for a comic book movie. There was only a couple of times that gave me this wow moment. Don't get me wrong, the action is to a high level and the set pieces as well, but nothing really blew me away. Would I say this is the best Batman movie to date, and does Robert Pattinson give us the closest interpretation of the famous detective? I would argue strongly to support that, but it's too early to say. I would have to watch it a few more times to confidently say, yes, it is the best Batman film, or perhaps doesn't quite have the edge over Batman Begins. It's strange now, with the Flash movie coming out this year featuring Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton as Batman due to its multiverse story. I think we have too many people playing Batman at the moment. I think Warner's needs to make a decision soon who will be moving forward for the next few years as the Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan gave us a Batman film that focused solely on him as a character, and so does Matt Reeves, who goes one step forward and gives Batman a lot of screen time. We get to see him investigating as it puts him on this emotional rollercoaster to the final act. It really pushes to make Batman a threat. The use of the bat signal is nicely highlighted to put fear into the criminals, who are paranoid Batman is hiding in the shadows. Having that level of threat gives the impression that he is everywhere and is watching you. It is a superb film with a fantastic high level of filmmaking. You can tell everyone involved is passionate about the story and its direction. Matt Reeves has created a real credible world for Batman to operate in, and I have high hopes to see where they take this new series. If you are a Batman fan, you've probably already seen it or intend to see it soon, but for those who are unsure, go see it, you won't be disappointed.